The ibex is a less charismatic animal than the lion or the eagle. One might conclude that some species are more attractive than others at first glance. In fact, many people view the wild mountain goat as a bit boring. It's not a ferocious hunter, nor is it poisonous, nor is it especially fast. Does the ibex hide some sort of secret that makes it special? Why should we watch a documentary about goats? Goats can be eaten, and they produce milk to make cheese, but they're not film stars. Or are they? Is the mountain goat also a spectacular creature in some way? What makes this species an epic, mythical being, at least at certain times in its life? Because mountain goats are very tough. Tough as the rocks they walk on. Tough as their horns. They endure some of the most brutal blows found anywhere in the animal kingdom. The ibex is truly tough. As tough as its life, as its habits, as the environment it lives in. Up here, tripping means dying. Mountain goats are the only animals that have made the rocks, the dizzying cliffs, and the freezing cold of the mountains their home. From the Himalayas to the Alps or the Pyrenees, in many parts of the world, the mountain goat is called the Lord of the Peaks. This is the life of a great lord of the summits in Spain's Guadarrama Mountains, one of the youngest national parks on the planet. If you thought this documentary was going to be a little dull, then you couldn't have been more wrong. And despite the fact that I'm going to give away the finale, it has a happy ending. Although it doesn't start off well. The mountain goat has only one great natural predator, the wolf. And it's a bad enemy to have. It is, as it's been called, the great hunter. Wolves accumulate experiences in their memory, and they organize themselves to kill. They're very intelligent animals. They usually attack their prey in a group, and they're able to set up complex ambushes. And their endurance is incredible. They can trot almost a whole day in pursuit of prey. But a large adult male ibex is a very strong animal. It weighs more than 100 kilograms, almost 3 times as much as a wolf, and could easily wound it by butting it with its horns. It could even kill the wolf. To hunt dangerous prey, wolves have to find a way to gain an advantage. But here on the rocks, it's very hard to hunt a mountain goat. And at this time of the year, they aren't raising young. They'll come back another day. A good hunter systematically looks for the weakest individuals, and that strengthens the species that it's hunting. The old Eskimo saying that the wolf makes the caribou strong is also true with respect to wild goats. This is the heart of the Iberian Peninsula in Spain. It's one of the last places where Europe's wild side still survives. It's a stone's throw from the big cities and progress. These are the outskirts of Madrid, where the peaks of the Sierra de Guadarrama National Park was just established. It's a long name, But that's because it's a strange national park. It wasn't possible to protect the whole mountain range, only the peaks. There are many people here, and the coexistence between nature and human society is complex. We have needs, and we know we have them. We grow in number and needs, and that's why our interests clash with the interests of wildlife. From the beginnings to the end of time. Here, for more than 25 years, ecologists, naturalists, technicians, and inhabitants have settled on the best way to care for this place. A place as beautiful as it is unstable, an emblematic place that is valuable to everyone. Johanna Spyri's popular novel Heidi portrays the shepherd's world up in the lonely mountains, where the legendary male mountain goat is practically worshipped, even though it only rarely reveals itself. The mountain goat family is wary, especially where human beings hunt them. In particular, the large males, the patriarchs that boast the biggest horns, have had to learn how to hide from our eyes. We are their greatest predator, now that there are so few wolves in Europe. Since the Stone Age, human beings have hunted mountain goats for their meat, their pelts, and also their horns. First, as a material to make tools with. Later, as if owning their horns endowed us with some form of the goat's power that we don't have. In the end, we also admire mountain goats. Although they're not fierce. No, they look docile, calm, but they're brave in the face of danger and can defend themselves courageously if they have to. In reality, not even a wolf can hunt a wild goat easily in its natural environs. They're agile and nimble on the rocks, where they move confidently, like acrobats on a high wire. And they are constantly on the alert. One of them is always on the lookout, just in case. And whenever they sense danger, the group transmits alarm signals by hissing or flicking their tails to quietly warn each other that something's not right. Of course, they could run, but they prefer to proceed without showing any fear, nor making any conspicuous moves. They start to climb. For them, safety is always higher up. And they can reach heights where no one else can follow them. Ibexes climb rocks like monkeys climb trees. Nevertheless, several goat species are in danger of extinction. There aren't enough open spaces remaining in their part of the world. The last Portuguese ibex was seen in 1892, and the Pyrenean ibex became extinct in the year 2000. The other wild goats in this part of southern Europe were also on the brink of extinction in the early 20th century. But conservation policies were enacted in time, and beginning with the few survivors, more civilized humans have gradually and systematically reintroduced them throughout the entire area where they were originally found. Which, nonetheless, does not mean they are saved for all time. Today, various populations of mountain goats are prospering, even in new enclaves. Man's conservation efforts are managing to undo part of the damage caused. But there's still not a balance. In nature, everything has to be balanced. And in the ibex's habitat, there's a lack of effective predators to control the new goat populations. These young groups sometimes grow uncontrollably, and overpopulation leads to malnutrition or inbreeding, and consequently genetic weakness. There's also a new effect: the coexistence of wild goats with domestic livestock, and that creates a dangerous situation. It's a possible breeding ground for diseases. Like dry leaves in a hot summer, the smallest spark can provoke a catastrophe. In 1988, in the Cazorla and Segura mountain range, there was a severe outbreak of sarcoptic mange, or scabies, which is caused by a minuscule parasitic mite. And in just 1 year, scabies killed 90% of the Ibex population in these mountains. It was a terrible blow, but in the end, biologists wound up considering that in the absence of predators, the mange worked like a regulating factor on the wild goat population. Now, insects and mites take up the slack for the big hunters, but they're very itchy. A goat eats a wide diversity of plant species, which can be very different. An African legend describes how goats were the first to eat the bitter beans of wild coffee plants, and how a goat herd was the first to drink coffee as an infusion after seeing how excited his goats got after eating the beans. So maybe we drink coffee thanks to them. In any case, mountain goats have to take advantage of what their habitat offers them in each season of the year, at different altitudes. In the summer, they usually climb up to the fresh, juicy alpine pastures to eat grass and shrubs. But when winter arrives in the mountains and snow covers the ground halfway up their legs, they're forced to descend to the edges of the forests, where they chomp on woody plants and even rip the bark off of trees. Where other animals would starve to death, goats find a way to survive. The digestive abilities of their stomachs are legendary too. Saying someone has a goat stomach is like saying they can eat anything without getting an upset tummy. But since they're also such agile acrobats, they can reach almost any place where nature hides its most delectable sprouts and shoots. Although they also seem quite content chewing on rubbery holm oak leaves. These postures are the inspiration for the Spanish expression to play the goat, which means doing something in a risky way. And unquestionably, they can eat in impossible poses. Sometimes their diet is so tough, so hard to process, that to help them grind up and digest the plant material in their stomachs, goats swallow small pebbles or eat them unintentionally, but in any case, they work like gastroliths. Since ancient times, humans have observed that goats are able to eat plants that were toxic for men and many other animals. And that's why, when they hunted goats, they recovered the stones that they saw in their stomachs. And sometimes they found hardened balls of hair that they called bezoars, which in the Persian language means antidote. They believed that bezoars would protect people against poisons and certain ailments. They were very expensive and were sold to kings and popes, who considered them to be among their most valuable possessions. Today, some say that the phosphates in the hair that form those stony concretions could react with arsenic, canceling out its effects. But besides the pebbles and bezoars in their stomachs, the secret of good digestion for goats is in chewing everything up very thoroughly. Ruminant animals have 4 stomachs, one after the other, and after an initial digestion in the first stomach, the food is returned to the mouth when it's ready to be chewed and salivated a second time. Then the ruminant swallows the food again, so that after a long process, the cellulose and lignin in the plant material can be turned into something digestible that the animal can get energy from. Ruminants produce dozens of liters of saliva every day in order to be able to eat the kind of food they eat. Mountain goats can eat just about anything and live almost anywhere, someplace horizontal or someplace vertical, and at almost any altitude, up to 3,400 meters above sea level, although normally they're found at about 1,000 meters. In order to be able to live on the slopes, they boast an extraordinary evolutionary tool: hoofs with the consistency of rubber. With these hoofs, they can get a grip on any rocky surface, no matter how impossible it may seem, no matter how icy or slippery it is. And they stick to the rock walls with startling ability and stability. They move with almost irresponsible ease and self-assurance among these dizzying cliffs, where no one dares to follow them. A wolf or a lynx here, or a snow leopard in the Himalayas, can't reach certain spots in the mountains. Sure, they can corner the goats, but the goats will try to escape without getting into trouble, reaching very dangerous places that apparently are a dead end, but where their tenacity and incredible skill at finding footholds that no other animal can see often saves their lives. And as soon as one member of the group discovers the escape route, the way out of their predicament, the rest follow him as if it were a piece of cake. That's why mountain goats live up on the rocks. Males and females live separate lives, as if they didn't get along with each other. For most of the year, they cordially ignore each other, living as if the one gender didn't exist for the other. The groups of males are structured hierarchically. At the top are the bearded patriarchs, the darkest ones, the true examples to follow. Muscular, determined, and highly experienced, they've been fathering kids for 14 or 15 seasons already. The second group consists of males that have reached sexual maturity, but that still have to consolidate their position. And the third and lowest group is made up of young males that are just about to achieve sexual maturity. They'll soon be 8 or 9 years old. They're impatient, defiant, and full of energy and testosterone. The patriarchs watch them out of the corner of their eyes. They study them, they get to know them. They know that when the time comes, they'll have to fight them for the females and power. Also walking among the males are inexperienced juveniles that have only recently separated from their mothers. They shyly and insistently try to get their disdainful elders to accept them. But it is sometimes said that in the highest places, in the most inaccessible and remotest spots, the strongest males form an elite herd that only the best can join. They spend the harshest part of winter that way, but they hide themselves very well, as if they knew that hunters would kill them for their horns, if they could find them. But perhaps that's just a story, like the legend of the elephant cemetery. For their part, the females form their own private club. They usually live at slightly lower altitudes than the group of males, closer to the forests, where they're better protected. It's a feminine setting of mothers with kids, and both mature and immature young goats. Like many other females, they don't seem to need the males for a thing on a day-to-day basis. Their lives, without the males, are calm and pleasant. The females that were impregnated in late autumn give birth to the year's young during the summer. After a 6-month gestation period, each mother separates from the group to give birth, looking for safety and protection, and a few days later she and her kids return to the group with the rest. All the females help each other to take care of the kids and watch over them. Raising the little ones is a shared community matter in this species. Right now, the males would be more of a bother than anything else. But until winter approaches and the cold becomes evident up in the peaks, the females will be left in peace, and the kids can play at being grown-ups. Goats really do spend their whole lives fighting, from when they're barely a few months old until the day they die. In fact, some even die in combat, although that's not common, of course. Their genetics have evolved over millions of years so that they can withstand the blows. Naturally, as they grow, their contests gradually get more intense in terms of both the violence and the risk. But above all, the sparring matches take on a different function. The skirmishes between the smallest kids are just a game. But as the years go by, the fun turns into training. And it's very tough and demanding exercise. The bouts between the mature males also fulfill the function of letting everyone know who's who in the group. Thus, the strongest or most aggressive males gradually climb the chain of command, and that prevents a lot of future conflicts. Goats are competitive, but they accept the rules, like gentlemen. These two champions aren't quite full adults yet. Their fur is reddish and golden, beautiful. But the alpha males, the true lords of the peaks, are dark, very dark. And they often merely observe the fights, calmly, with self-assurance, as they know that these minor matches have nothing to do with them. In mid-autumn, when the cold becomes evident, the call to procreate awakens in the billy goats. The scent of testosterone is bitter and strong. It's obvious in the atmosphere. In the absence of the hormone of violence, the males have put up with each other quite peaceably. But when the time comes to cover the females, the situation changes. Only human beings manage to control that savage power, and not even all of us do. For all other animals, order is achieved through the use of force, by establishing hierarchies. Order, organization. In goat society, not all males can mate with females. In fact, the large majority of them never will. And of course, those that do have the right to procreate can do so with any female. Seniority is a rank that must be enforced and respected. The bearded patriarchs have to put the youngsters in their place. And so the month of November, for an Iberian ibex, is the month of challenges. The echoes of tremendous headbutts resound. Physical condition, strength, size, horns, they all matter. But so does strategy. Attacking from a higher position than one's rivals offers an advantage. And it's important to conserve one's energies, one's fat reserves. The key to fighting is endurance. To withstand the effort for as long as possible. Victory is often the result of exhaustion and of pain. Mountain goats' heads can resist these clashes thanks to their extraordinary meninges, which protect their brains from these blows. When the combat decides who's the winner, the victor forces the loser to withdraw from the battlefield, whether he wants to or not. While the most ardent males that think they have the right to mate with the females resolve their disputes, a young and especially daring juvenile, ready and willing to break the rules, in all his innocence, tries to seduce a mature female. No doubt he's imitating the way that he's watched the older males behave. This lack of respect is foreseen in nature. Evolution doesn't seek to preserve just one genetic line, that of strength and power. It also rewards courage and astuteness, and incorporates them into the genetic heritage when a youngster breaks all the rules. The thing is, it almost never works out that way. she rejected his advances. Defeated, the downcast youngster tries to calm the sexual tension that's controlling him. He tried, and he'll try again, no question about it. But for now, he'll have to swallow his pride and keep watching and learning. In mountain goat society, there are many forms of communication that we humans would call nonverbal communication. Smells, attitudes, and gestures that make it perfectly clear what's going on. The state of sexual receptiveness is one of the most important messages of all, and the one that must be crystal clear between a male and a female when they cross paths. In this group, there are several fully adult males, but there's no rivalry among them. Only one is the dominant male. The rest are his squires. They're big too, and they're also full of testosterone, but their fur hasn't turned black yet. The real alpha male walks, flanked by his guards. They know he's the strongest, but this way they isolate him from all the troublemakers, all the rowdy males that would love to challenge him and try to take away his harem. After so many years, he's earned the right not to have to duel with just anybody. Only another goat as experienced and as tough as he is can challenge him. His squires almost always take care of these things for him. There's probably a degree of kinship between the alpha male and his squires. The genes of the clan are what they're defending. What's more, among goats, these males on the second echelon also have opportunities to mate, although with females that belong to, shall we say, the same social rank. The dominant male has preference, but he devotes his attentions to the dominant females, so his squire's genes are also viable, and that's why they fight for him. That not only the best males fight and are able to mate is something that doesn't just occur among mammals. It's also found with a degree of frequency among various types of animals. If chromosomes from very distinct lineages are able to coexist, then each clan has a better chance of adapting to possible environmental changes or to an infectious disease that otherwise might be an insurmountable threat if all their genes were too alike. Of course, these two males are also deciding their status among their own females, the ones we might consider of second rank, although they're just as important as the alpha females. Chromosomal variety is another form of strength. It represents security. Although hierarchical order must be established every so often. The fight has come to an end without determining a winner. There are no hard feelings between the two squires, so they climb up to make it clear that they've fought hard. That's how they pay homage to the Lord of the Peaks, who now approaches the female as if he'd done all the work himself. Any male animal wants to mate with the greatest number of females of his species. Although, of course, nature curbs those ambitions. The males of many species have to help take care of the young to increase their chances of survival. And the females control their natural biological impulses by being choosy. They're the ones that accept an advance or not. The mountain goat's sexual behavior is very similar to that of many other species, the patriarchal species, those species that don't have to live with their mates for years and don't value fidelity. All females are able to say yes or no, able to select, evaluate, and choose the ones that deserve to make their chromosomal mark on the family lineage. But no matter how macho he may be in the animal world, the females are only in heat for 3 weeks out of the year. His tail is clearly raised. He's releasing pheromones from his anal glands. The chemistry is so intense that it can prompt the females to ovulate, at least those that feel attracted to him. But something isn't working. He's following the preliminary courting rituals scrupulously, just as he did last year, and undoubtedly the year before that. His horns back, neck stretched. He softly sniffs the female's genitals and flicks his tongue, raising his lips to perceive the chemical signals that she sends back, or should be sending back. But he can't get a receptive posture or attitude out of her. There's no response to his persistence. For several days now, he's been unable to convince any of the females to accept mating with him. His strength is good for fighting with other males, but he can't impose himself on the ladies. His desperation leads him to try to break the rules. But the female refuses and doesn't let him cover her. He's a beast. He can't control himself. But they're faster, and at least as intelligent as he is. And they know that if they don't want to, there will be no mating, no obedience, no kingdom. It will be the end of the Sultan whenever they see him that way. The females, the gender that has so stupidly been called the weaker sex, are actually, in most species, the ones that make the final decision. And all the males can do is show off before them as if in a parade, and try to be the one they pick. trying to mate with an entire harem and not getting anywhere after days of insisting is much worse and much more exhausting than copulating with permission. Now, living on the rocks turns against him. The slopes become steeper. Ascending and descending become an extra effort that reduces his endurance to a minimum. Goats are tough, but they can suffer a heart attack like any other animal. Today, the alpha male is extremely exhausted. All he can do is sleep. Sleeping is restorative, renewing, restful. Although cerebral activity takes off when we dream. And goats dream. This REM phase eye movement indicated that this old male may be reliving days of fighting or loving. Today, unrequited love. Maybe he's establishing in his memory what he did right and what he did wrong. When we dream, we organize what we've learned. And we regain our strength. Perhaps tomorrow there will be more fights, or more slopes, or more wolves. But perhaps there won't be a tomorrow for him. This dark old timer seems to have fulfilled his mission. And he's more exhausted than asleep. His time is coming to an end. Tonight, if it gets very cold, he may fall asleep for the last time. Only 2 days later, the cycle of life has begun anew. Yet again, as always. Now the old patriarch's body is food for the vultures. That, in turn, will also give rise to new lives and continuity to more life cycles. Nature wastes nothing. Although to achieve that, it acts mercilessly, without compassion. In the order of their hunger, the vultures will consume every last bit of meat on the old billy goat, which was no longer going to produce any more offspring, and so had no place in the group anymore. After a while, even his bones will disappear. But the old Ibex's death has left his group without a boss, and a little disoriented. If he had died in combat, maybe there could have been a clear heir. What are these males doing around the alpha female? Why don't they fight for her? There's still time to mate. And yet, there's no visible desire, no aggressiveness on anyone's part. They're acting as if they want her to choose one of them. They're not strutting around, nor showing off their horns, nor boasting about the size of their muscles or anything. They're just clowning around with their tongues, sniffing the air for what she's telling them with her scent. Why don't they challenge each other? Maybe we're the ones who need the male goats to fight each other, as we've always said they do. But perhaps we just don't understand everything. The old patriarch will soon be dust and mineral salts and atoms in other organisms. In the vulture's offspring, in bacteria. Yes, he died and was devoured with no respect whatsoever, but he triumphed. His end isn't bitter, it's wild. He saw many of his offspring grow up, and maybe one of them has taken his place as the new Lord of the Peak.